spoke earlier about when you went to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you said that you felt shame, like as an Australian. Was that purely because of the language that we only know sort of one language, or like it's tokenistic in primary schools, or was there other sort of was there more to it than that?
I think it's mostly that, in terms of you just see these people who are so experienced culturally. They've come from foreign countries. They're, in high-paying jobs. They're well-educated. They speak multiple languages. They work their asses off in order to get to where they are. And I felt, obviously I'm not in the same position as them because I'm living in my home country where it's not really very useful for me to necessarily speak a foreign language if I'm, friends with 90% Australian people. But when I was suddenly surrounded by all these people from other countries who spoke multiple languages, and you would interact with them on a daily basis, in Melbourne these days, you get on a tram and you're more likely to hear Chinese or Mandarin Chinese, Indonesian, Portuguese than you are English.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many young students that have come over. I think, the average age in Melbourne's probably 21 or something crazy.
Yeah, right.
But I felt that sort of shame and embarrassment of I'd never put in the hard yards to get to where they've gotten, And so, and it seems like it's something that it seems to characterize most of Australia, the US, New Zealand, Britain, any of these countries that are native English speakers. It's a two-edged blade, right? The biggest problem is that the most useful language in the world is English. So if you already speak it, there's no real reason to learn another language in terms of it'll get me a better job, it'll lead to better prospects, unless you've gone down a very specific route in terms of, I don't know, trade with Brazil or politics in China or something like that, where obviously it'll give you an edge. Even then, though, the people you're going to interact with probably speak English way better than you're going to ever speak their language because they've been learning it since they were 5, so.
And we're motivated to do that. So that, in many ways it's to get out of certain classes in order to elevate themselves. Exactly. It makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And that's one of the things too. I found that it's so hard learning a foreign language as an English native speaker because it is so much more on you to kind of discipline and motivate yourself.
Yeah. What's your motivation?
For me, it's my wife, right?
Yeah.
So without her, there's probably zero chance that I would speak Portuguese as well as I do today because I would have no need to. I would have to go out of my way to find Brazilians. So it's a lot more work. Whereas if I was a Brazilian living in Brazil, English is a way out of poverty or a way of elevating myself, of getting a better career, of learning more about the world. If I'm a Brazilian Portuguese speaker and I want to learn about Japanese history, chances are I can't find that in Portuguese. And this is one of those things I face all the time, looking for content in Portuguese. It's like you're going down a funnel into a much smaller pool of content if you're leaving the English-speaking world and going into any other language, because there's almost certainly less content than there is in English.
Yeah.
And that also is very difficult.